It is well known that college administrators and their professors lean heavily to the left, but the issue of political indoctrination in the classroom would not be such a problem if American children were intellectually equipped with the truth about socialism and communism from an earlier age. Our greater fight lies in the American middle schools and high schools failing to teach the tactics of Marxist uprisings, the true implementation of socialism, the eventual jump from socialism to communism, and the devastating effects this process has had on millions of innocent people. If young Americans learned that the communist dictators of the 20th century, like Fidel Castro, came to power by guaranteeing fill-in-the-blank-for-all policies, attacking the rich, promising social justice and progress, and calling themselves democratic socialists, two things would be different. One, red flags would go off in the minds of our generation when we hear those same promises from modern-day Marxists in America. And two, young college students would be ready to fight back against their radical professors' blatant lies in favor of a deadly and failed ideology.
In my experience, colleges and universities are teaching people about socialism, but I think the reason that a lot of millennials are moving towards socialism versus other ways of life is because they don't see a lot of opportunities coming their way. We do think that health care is infrastructure. It sustains life and should be a human right. We do think that education is infrastructure that sustains life and should be a human right. That is by no means suggesting that governments control the means of production. They're two very different suggestions. So I'm not sure exactly where the question of are they teaching socialism in college going, but I would compel everyone to opt for a more complex vetting of how they look at our modern politics.
Hello, welcome back to another Millennial Minute. Today's burning question: do colleges and universities teach students socialism? You've already heard from our guests, Morgan Zegers, she's the founder and CEO of Young Americans Against Socialism, and James Felton Keith, friend of Bold and author of Inclusionism and founder of the Data Union. Thank you for being here. Morgan, colleges, is that where people get these socialist ideas?
Colleges are not the main issue here, and right now you have 70% of young Americans that would vote for a socialist, 1 in 3 millennials view communism favorably, and a majority of young people in America would choose socialism for the future of the country. These problems don't stem in college campuses. They start in middle school and high school when we are failed to be taught the most basic facts about socialism and communism and how these Marxist uprisings lead to absolute tragedy.
So, James, do you feel like we have those ideas inculcated in us at a young age, or is this just, not an issue?
I think that our political realities, when we look at any generation, is a result of our economic reality. And so I do think that when young people are going into school now and they're learning about the ways of the world, at least in a more quantitative way, per what professors are introducing to them, which are usually peer-reviewed, studies, that they end up saying, well, yeah, we need more investment in us. And so I do think that if you're saying a young age is a college student age, then yes, I think we're coming out of those places with a loosely formed ideology about how we should exist in the world. And I think it happens on both ends. I think there are plenty of people like Paul Ryan who read Ayn Rand once and they go, I know how the world should work. And they think there's something virtuous in selfishness, which is ridiculous, as he was.
So Morgan, James brings up actually a really fair point here, is that people kind of jump off the deep end with a little information, and we live in an era of extremism.
Absolutely, and when we talk about the indoctrination on campus, I don't think it's as serious of an issue as people make it out to be. And a lot of conservatives say, what can we do to fight back on campuses? We wouldn't be in this situation of young people thinking they want these radical ideas like socialism and communism if we had a better understanding of basic economics and history from an earlier age. And so I don't think we would have to have these conversations if we had young Americans in this country that respected the progress that we've made so far and the fact that our system is the best option moving forward. We just have some kinks and we have some problems that we have to work on together, including healthcare, college pricing, and of course, climate change.
So James, you're suggesting also, just like Morgan, that there is an educational deficit here and a poor understanding of history when people form their political ideals.
Totally. I mean, sure, I'm always, of the group to say we can do a better job at educating folks from a younger age. But I'm also of the group, I'm regularly fighting baby boomers who are blaming people under 35 for not voting and doing things. And I have to let them know that they didn't vote either when they were 25 years old or 20. And I think it is a lot to ask of people who are trying to form their identity in place and time to understand macro and microeconomics and sociopolitics all at the same time. You know, people between 35 and 65, we go to work, we raise the kids, we pay the taxes, we vote because it is our obligation. And I do think that it is a lot to suggest that some 20-year-old should know the difference between Marxism, communism, and socialism, which are three different things.
Well, we have basic education systems where you learn about history and religion and economic
We've
systems.
been teaching the wrong history, though. We haven't even taught people about the transatlantic slave trade.
But we're talking about
we're
talking about socialism versus communism.
That is a faction of your comparison per capitalism to socialism, because people who look like me were capital over a course of time. They were incentivized to radically transform how this country and so many other countries work. And again, that has not been taught in schools from how are kids when they go to school? 5 years old to
But I would say when you're
old.
saying that we can't expect them to have a basic understanding of history, right now TikTok influencers have these Black Lives Matter fists as their profile picture. Black Lives Matter is led by trained Marxists. They also wrote
No, it's not.
when Fidel
I'm a Black Lives Matter advocate. I am
the
like
leader
the
called
Black Lives
herself
Matter
a
advocate.
Marxist.
Who was the leader? It's a decentralized org. It is so like blockchain
the
to
two
the max.
founders of
There are three
the two founders of Black Lives Matter called themselves trained Marxists, and they wrote a
really
letter.
should have had a debate about this.
No,
So-
and they wrote a letter that said, in defense of
I saw
El
the letter.
Comandante, in defense of El Comandante, Fidel Castro, who specifically hated black people and specifically wanted gay people murdered, because he said they couldn't be fully contributing revolutionaries. They couldn't fully be there for the communist revolution in Cuba. That's the kind of person that they're standing
revolutionaries
up for.
who
And
are
now they're
participating
leading
in any movement.
Now they're leading
But it is-
mainstream
but it is
culture. Black
inherently
Lives
a
Matter.
decentralized movement, and they are leading culture. And we
How can you
should.
defend writing a letter in defense of El Comandante, a man who hated black people and gay
Because
people?
when you are so far depressed, right, and you are so far oppressed in a system, you have to take somewhat radical measures to be heard at all. Screaming Black Lives Matter. The Black Lives Matter has been
that they
around.
have to support someone who didn't like black people and gay people. They're that oppressed in America. They have to go that radical.
They're referencing all people who have produced a revolution or an opposition to their governmental system.
Okay, guys, it looks like we hit a nerve, so that's
a
my
big
job
difference.
here. I just have one quick question because we're out of time.
I think we
You know, socialism has gone more mainstream. Bernie Sanders is now,
Democratic socialism has gone more mainstream.
Okay.
And Republicans,
Democratic socialism doesn't exist.
Republicans have formed it as socialism, and I agree with you. I'm not a socialist. I wrote a series of op-eds in the Midwest about how socialism is hijacking progressivism. But as that is said, when we talk about extremists rebranding and repackaging things for the American public to understand, it is by far the extremist conspiracy theorizing folk on the right who try to brand what it means to be an American to their tribe so that they can reject any and everything that suggests that we should change slightly in a more favorable way, to humankind.
Okay, Morgan, last word because we're out of time here.
It is basic conservatives that are up against radical Marxists and socialists that say they hate this country, they hate our founders, they hate our
Conservatism
founding
is a plague.
documents, and they want to
Sorry,
completely
talk.
dismantle this system and replace it with socialism. They're not calling themselves democratic socialists.
Okay,
I don't even get how
and
someone
that is
like
what
you
is
can
so
be a
concerning.
conservative, though. Seriously, like
Because I believe in individual liberty and
that's
economic
not
freedom.
conservative. That's progressive. A young woman like you,
You guys
you're
have
here on
branded
this show
yourselves
right
as
now.
progressives, and you're advocating for archaic ideas. Socialists claim that they are advocating.
I'm not
for
advocating. It's
progress.
not a you are. I'm not
Okay,
advocating for.
socialists and leftists
Socialists
claim
may
that
be.
they're advocating for progress.
And it is as
they
conservative
then
as
push
conservatism
archaic
is.
Okay,
ideas.
guys, so you're
Yeah.
talking over each other. Listen,
Sure.
we're going to have you on again. You'll have more time to debate each other. Thank you for being here today. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And thank you all for watching. Fascinating debate. Have a great day.